good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all. And we're live.
Yeah. What's good, people? It's your boy Icarus Gray.
And it's your homeboy Wordplay TJ.
And this is the No Rhyme or Reason podcast, where we talk about everything.
Everything for no reason at all.
We back.
Yes, it's been a long sabbatical. There's been a lot going on. We've been every which way. We've been to Portland and Arkansas and some other places, and now we're finally back to deliver some dope content. So in this podcast, we're going to talk about a lot. We're going to speak on Ari Lennox and her issues with colorism and comedy. We're going to talk about
Cardi B's new single.
We're going to talk about Lil Yachty and his George Floyd comments, and then, or bars, and then, or lack thereof, and we're going to share our thoughts about Jid's new album, God Does Like Ugly.
Yeah. We have a jam-packed show for you guys. Jam-packed.
So let's start with the Ari thing. So if folks don't know and they were living under a rock or they weren't doing their podcast for several weeks, Ari Lennox came on social media and she was upset about some things that she saw as a kid, saw today, maybe?
I think she said as like she was younger.
Okay, as she was younger, she was experiencing while watching Martin, and then she kind of doubled down on those comments a little bit later, and so we'll kind of dive into that. So let's play the clip, and then we'll react to her comments.
Me off about Martin was how much he would go on Pam. I'm not like too woke or something is what I'm trying to say. Like I'm honestly problematic. I'm pretty problematic, low key. But my point is that there are some things where I draw the line and it just bothered me. Or like Pam was so beautiful and so fine, and I just feel like growing up as a chocolate girl, I don't even know if I was able to understand the greatness of Pam because of the light that I feel like I was being fed. I'm just like always going on Pam, always like that's all I remember. It just would piss me off, like the joking on Pam. I just didn't like that.
Well, she could have watched enough.
Okay. So based off of that clip, how do you feel?
I feel it's a weird take to me. Not to say that she's not legitimate in like what she feels, but what are we doing? Like, is this? It reminds me like the Kevin Hart stuff where he tweeted whatever he tweeted about the LGBT community or whatever it was like years ago, and he ultimately ended up not getting the Oscars, being able to host the Oscars for it.
Yeah,
this kind of feels like that. It just kind of feels like you were randomly watching Martin, and now you kind of feel this way, and maybe you always felt this way, but I don't necessarily understand why the commentary now.
So I'll share my perspective, but first I want to kind of give some insights to the audience. She's also sort of doubled down on these comments.
Yeah.
She also stated that she was offended by Bernie Mac's comedy back in the day. And so when I think about her perspective on this, the first thing I think is she's talking about how she felt, how it made her feel as a quote unquote chocolate girl, right? So like, I don't see anything wrong with that.
No.
Saying that this is how these things made me feel. Yeah. And with the social reinforcement of colorism, if she just says this is how it made me feel, but not diagnosing that you shouldn't watch this or you shouldn't be entertained by this or you shouldn't be going back and watching this, I think it's totally fine. She's not prescribing somebody else do something. She's just talking about how it made her feel. And I think it's fair for her to feel that way. What I don't believe is that, well, she's, close to our age. So I guess instead of saying I don't believe, what I'm curious about is if she also saw the other parts that happened, right? How Bernie Mac bigged up the oldest daughter a lot in that show. I wonder if she saw the parts where Martin had a imaginary crush on Pam, and that was a whole thing during a season.
I also wonder if she notes Pam's strength in her responses. Like the character of Pam, it wasn't like Martin just dug on her and she just said nothing.
No, she came back at him on a regular basis and was snapping back on him back and forth. So I get the point that these comments, these types of jokes can impact women of color, especially darker women of color.
Yes.
And that the colorism is real. But I don't believe that she's talking about anybody but herself.
No, and I agree with that. I think it's just that social media soup of everything is in the pot. Like it's harder to take out when you're talking about social media, your personal feelings, because when you project them out in an open space, it is now in the mix of everything. So it's in the mix of how I feel or how they feel, because how many of us earnestly know how to compartmentalize and say, that's just how Ari feels. I'm sorry that she feels that way.
Yeah, so I think historically, even to your Kevin Hart point, right? So one, she's not prescribing anybody does anything.
No.
But even when social media does prescribe something, you don't have to take that pill.
No.
You see what I'm saying?
But a lot of us,
the outcomes of what happened to Kevin is a response to say, we hear you.
Yeah.
And I personally think that oftentimes when people are saying we need you to hear us, it's when they've been discounted for a very long amount of time.
Agree.
And you have to know, I'm looking at this from a historical perspective. Things do not age well historically. No. You see what I'm saying?
No.
Like etiquette. Let's just take etiquette, right?
That's a good one.
You're not going to the table the way that you would have gone to the table in the Victorian era.
No, you're not.
But if somebody says, I'm offended by how they used to make us sit at the table and put our hands in our laps before we or not ever put our elbows on the table or something like that. It doesn't mean that. So oftentimes people say, "Oh, well, that was back then. That was a sign of the times, and that's just all they know. That's all they knew. So don't be so hard on them." And I think that we can still judge older moments by modern changes in perspective.
I agree. I just think where we mess up is judging a 13-year-old by a 30-year-old. Like, I don't know what happened. It's basically like you're looking at somebody's dash that you're never going to pay attention to. Like,
so you mean like 13-year-old Ari,
or
is judging? 30-year-old Ari is judging 13-year-old Ari's experience.
Yeah, or like with the Kevin Hart stuff, right? The thing was, he did apologize. You're now looking for, like, you didn't go looking for the apology. You only found the offense, and you stopped there with your history finding. Like, there was an apology. And it's like, now who am I sufficing to? Every new person that discovers an old thing but won't take the same amount of time to be like, did this get cleared up?
So they want another level of accountability on
Yes.
top of the accountability that somebody's already taken,
Yeah.
and they've never recognized the accountability in the first place.
That's my issue with, like, you're correct about, like, history. Like, I can't take away how Ari feels about it, but it's like, do we give that same amount of time to searching out whether or not this got resolved? Because, like, if it's Martin from 13 years ago, right? Maybe Martin has comments somewhere like, man, you know, like, at the time we probably did a lot of stuff to that negatively affected colorism, but we understood what was going on and we played the game at that time. And, you know, I regret not being more stand up about this or whatever. Like, we don't go and look for that.
Right.
It's just like, this makes me mad. And it's like,
Yeah, but it's also, to my original point, it's the internet.
yes.
I'm sorry, but like, the internet is already so flooded with opinions
Yeah.
that why even like bend to the opinions of the loudest people in the room? You know what I mean? I don't always agree with that. You see what I'm saying? Like, the reason why I don't agree to always bending to the loudest people in the room is because how do you know that the other part of that body agrees with that decision?
Correct.
Right? How do you know that other people that are also could be also impacted agree with that lack of that need for accountability?
Yeah.
So for example, let's say, well, I'm not even going to give an example because I don't want to go too deep into this situation. I think there's a balance to it.
Yeah.
There is a reality where people have been hurt. And so I look at, personally look at cancel culture as a need, but an overcorrection. It's sort of like, let's say you're bullied every day, right? And instead of going to that bully and correcting that bully's behavior or that bully being held accountable by his or her parents, I just 10 years down the road go punch that person in the face. That's what I think people feel about cancel culture. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, but that is what it is, though. And also, like,
I don't think it is that what it is all the time.
Not all the time.
I think sometimes I think the accountability is proportional to the crime, right? So
yeah,
like
a
the
bully
dude in Hollywood.
I was just gonna say, compared to him,
Right.
Like, if you're talking about him versus that, but I think that, like, we don't do enough research in terms of our reaction. But there, to your point, was not enough saying that certain things happen to you and realizing that and giving that the due process or even the attention that it deserves. Therefore, you know, you have the people that, like, feel unheard, coming together in that blob that is cancel culture to move things because they weren't heard.
Yeah, and so I think more often than not, cancel culture was the overcorrection, the punching the bully 10 years later, versus the bully's parents having that conversation with the bully about their behavior. You see what I'm saying? Like it oftentimes resembled the punch to the face versus a hard, tough conversation and accountability through conversation and dialogue.
Yeah. And, the bully had. My last point in terms of that, and is just like, I think that what they missed, though, even though it's like your first time seeing that bully, so you punch him, like, in that 10 years between when he was bullying you, bully went and got therapy, parents got divorced, all these things happened that are like, he's changed. Like, I don't know what happened, but I'm just going to punch you because of my last experience with you.
Right, exactly. And so I think what people are asking for is a middle ground, and there's always a need for balance. And that balance can lean between accountability and not exaggerating that accountability.
So Ari isn't wrong for her feelings. You are kind of wrong for how you feel about her feelings. Like, her personally. If it ain't gonna stop you from watching Martin.
Yeah, she didn't say go stop watching Martin. She didn't say that. She didn't say that, in my opinion. So you want to move on to some other heavy stuff? Lil Yachty and the George Floyd comment. So recently, on a live stream with some streamers, I'm gonna pull up the name of the live stream is Black Boy Max. Is the streamer. Yachty was on their live stream and he was playing a song where he rapped, "Put my knee on her neck, I went George Floyd." And so we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a listen to it and then go and discuss what we think about it.
Forward. Wait for it. ITSUS, I'm finna go break the bank for it. Put my knee up on her neck, I went George Floyd.
Why?
Yeah.
Just why? Like, here's I know I'm gonna sound old man coming off the stuff we just got done talking about, but here's my thing about the newer generation. Not all of them, but the Yachty's, the Bass God, or not Lil B, but Ugly God. That's what I'm trying to think about. And just some of the newer acts, right? There's not much respect for what came before you or just social commentary, right? Because in your mind, you're just thinking like, oh, this is a clever little thing, like rough sex or whatever it is you're alluding to in that moment. And you're using the most connected thing.
Why was that
to
the
what you're
example?
Saying. What?
Rough.
Oh, no, because he said he got a knee up on her neck.
Okay.
And so I feel like that's what he's saying.
I understand. I understand now. I just didn't know why.
Oh, well, that's what it seemed like he was alluding to.
Yes.
Like if he's not, then forgive me. But
it sounds like that's what.
And I'm like, that's a weird way to, like. First of all, why? Again, why would that be what you're doing? That's like, that is a weird request. But then on top of that, it just goes from that to disrespectful. So it's not like it's a flex of what you're saying. Like, you're almost saying to me, like, whatever it is you're doing, that's not consensual.
Yeah.
Like, this just wasn't thought out well.
I would go beyond that. I think the reason why it's more impactful is because the wounds of George Floyd are still fresh, and they're even more apparent in the current administration that we're in.
Yeah. And so Stephen Jackson, which is a close friend of George Floyd, he was pivotal in basically the George Floyd movement that we got, about whether it was getting the cops to trial, whether it was getting more eyes on it. He was the huge and pivotal point of that. And so he spoke out with a Instagram post to Yachty. I don't know why.
Yeah. So he called him a Sambo for the lyrics. He said, "You think saying," and this is reported by Rolling Stone. You think saying George Floyd's name and trying to use his name in a bar is gonna make people like your whack music, my dude? That ish is weak. Y'all the only era that feel like demeaning the dead sounds like the ish is cool. My ninja, it ain't.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, there's a good news to report in terms of the fact that Yachty did apologize. Stephen Jackson took his post down, understood that they had a conversation as men and that he apologized for it and everything else. But I go more to his point of, like, the fact that you feel like that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, this shouldn't be a line. It doesn't add anything. Like I said before, if you're alluding to a certain thing, it's gonna sound real weird in terms of whatever it is you're talking about with this girl. Second of all, it shows no class or no respect for the fact that, again, people are still mourning, people are still going through these things, especially under the current administration. And then last but not least, there's a million other things you could have said.
So this, even though this kind of connects to the Ari situation, because This is just another version of art.
Yeah.
This is just another version of people expressing themselves the same way that comedy is.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that it's in real time versus in the past. So hypothetically, my question is, do you think people would be just as outraged, do you think people would be just as forgiving of Lil Yachty as they are forgiving of the past Martin and Bernie Mac jokes?
I don't think so, because this would have zero context. Like, there's no conversation about why you thought this was the line you should write. It's just the bars. And so if you're sitting there and I'm like, make this make sense. Like, the apology is there in terms of like, can I find, hopefully I find that in the midst of whatever searching you're doing like years from now. But
the context is the greater context of, say, like a Martin episode or a Bernie Mac episode. This is why the joke was happening.
Yeah.
But we don't know why this song is happening.
No.
And why George Floyd needs to be brought up in the midst of this record.
Yeah. Like, it just, none of it makes sense to where you can even kind of comprehend where Yachty was going. Because I don't think of Yachty as, like, I don't think of him as a Sambo. I don't think he's untalented. I think he is more talented than what we give him credit for. But I think that given his audience and given how he came into the game, he still tries to feed a lower, or not a lower level. He still tries to feed the audience that he came into. Mm-hmm. But I just don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make sense on any level that I can fathom. And maybe he has a reason, or maybe it was just what Ryan, I don't know.
I think he just moves off of vibes and just says whatever the hell comes to his brain and sounds good after the fact to him.
Yeah, don't ever put me in that vibe. That's just do you think we can be better as musicians to not end up in situations like this, or because of art being so subjective, you're just going to end up in places like this unintentionally?
I think that, similar to the comedy of the day, you're going to stumble on things that you say that aren't appropriate to say maybe in the future, or maybe it could be the near future when you actually say them. Or it could be 5-10 years, a decade later. Yeah, there could be some things that you say, like in my raps in the past, I've used the word lame, but I, as a person with a disability, I don't want to use that phrase anymore, right? Because that phrase isn't that word, even if the terminology means something is whack or kind of, it's still, for me, in today's context, I know that word doesn't fit well in my vocabulary and doesn't need to be heard by audiences en masse. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so, because I disagree with that word now, I'm going to no longer use it. But does that mean I'm going to go? I'm not necessarily going to go back and change the times that I've used it. But I will say today, hey, I learned my lesson from this. This is why I don't use it anymore, and I won't use it going forward. But I'm not necessarily going to change the product that I had before.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Like, I think about, like, any time I would have used a bad boy or a mogul line. Like, I can't second it. You know what I'm saying?
I've definitely had
like, we've all, like, the same way people talk about Trump. Yeah. Like, there's so many raps.
I've definitely had some take that's in my raps.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what I mean?
Like, but not thinking about it.
Even the fact that like I do all the ad libs on one of your tracks or something like that.
Yeah, like, it's, hindsight is 20/20 in that way. I do think that, like, with these first two topics, it's very interesting to kind of see how people use the internet. Yeah. And also realizing how people should use the internet. Right. Because, like, just, any kind of patience or time would have been like, this probably ain't the line. But getting on like a live stream and being, like you said, in the middle of a vibe, there's no time for you to check that vibe, see if that vibe is worth it or whatever, because you're just trying to, give good content.
Yeah.
But speaking of good content.
So the next thing, we listened to Cardi B's new song, Imaginary Players, which is a flip on Jay-Z's same record of the same title. What do you think about it?
I thought it was a really good song. I think it's the first time where it's not essentially like chorus focused for Cardi.
She's not fishing for a hit.
Yeah, like it just felt like she was really just trying to rap and flaunt in a way that is Jay-Z like. Like you took the track and kind of did your take on it for real.
Yeah.
And not just like a carbon copy, like how I think like a lot of the songs or the top 100 songs are made, which is basically just taking everything from the 90s, early 2000s, flipping it, and then therefore like there's a whole generation of people who don't know that this came from another song.
Yeah. Somebody that I used to know.
Yeah.
Like the Gautier song.
Mm-hmm.
Doechii recently flipped that, but they don't know that song was sampled from something in the 50s, 60s.
No.
Yeah.
Or even like Victoria Monet with Charlie Boy's song, on my hood.
Right.
There's not, he's even on the track in the video,
Mm-hmm.
but you probably wouldn't know who he is or care as to why he's there.
Right. And I don't think anybody knows the original sample for Jay-Z's record.
Oh yeah. And that's another point. But like for doing all of that, she slid to me in a way of like, when you're talking about female rap, right? Especially the female rap of Nicki, Cardi, Lotto, Meg Thee Stallion, Sexy Red, that era, even Glow. Like the way it's about the braggadocious, bigging up how much better you are than somebody kind of thing. And the same stuff that we do. But it's coming into its own level of standing, I think, especially with the heavy hitters of Cardi B. And I think she really took this track to execute flaunting in a way that I think is cool, fun, and not just overbearing. And since you're not going for a hit, you're spending more time on the actual sound of it, the look of the video, how it feels. And I think she's very smart in that way.
Yeah, so the original song is Imaginary Playmates by Renee and Angela, made in 1981. So,
Jesus.
Yeah. So, I mean, and the kids won't care, right?
At all.
TikTok won't care
No.
about diving deeper, but I think DJs would care. And super music fans and heads would care. And so I think Cardi B did this record for the heads.
Which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's somebody she's serviced.
You're right.
Whoa.
We're not talking about our stripper days. So.
This ain't love and hip hop. But I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I signaled that as a sign of growth from her as she's gearing up for this second album, of like trying to reach more people. Like you dropped Outside, which was really, really cool. And now you have this single, which is showing that you're wanting to shift to a different level, show that the crown can be yours, and kind of get back to certain things. She's like, she did a couple songs or did a single with Partisan Fontaine, which is long known contributor of a lot of Cardi's lyrics early on or whatever. So she's checking the boxes of what I think makes an effective rollout.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's sticking the way she thinks it's going to stick. And without as much label support as she has had in the past, I don't know that it's going to. But we'll see. We'll see how it turns out, how it works for album sales, and whether or not she can catch one in the future.
I hope she can, because I appreciate this. So shout out to Cardi, and shout out to Imaginary Players.
Yeah, speaking of catching one, this boy.
Man, listen.
So we're about to do our No Rhyme Or review of Jid's God Does Like Ugly. This is going to be a truncated version, so we'll talk about our production, the lyrics, the what is it? The themes, or sorry, our favorite records, and then we'll talk about the overall rating for this album. So like, where were you on production?
Production was immaculate, and I think it's just something about these Atlanta artists that you embody everything because you have to. Whether it's with the production of like who was on the production? I didn't even look that up.
Keep talking.
But
so I'm
you
looking
had a
it up
lot
right
of dirty South just feelings. You had a lot of transitions that kind of felt like jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much layering. So he would start a verse here, and then the beat would shift here, and then would come back to where it started, and it would take you along on a journey of emotional intensity to like actually put you in the places that Jid was describing. And every song, whether it was VCRs or with a feature, like there was like so much depth to the production.
Yeah.
I was very, very impressed. What did you think about the production?
So I also agree that there's depth in the production. It seems like Christo shows up a lot. You have Mario Luciano on this on this. Childish Major shows up.
Ooh.
And Jay Versace.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Who else is on this project? Boy Wonder, Vinyls, Thundercat, Childish Major again. And so you got a lot of people that are on, some notable names on this record, and I think that diversity is what you're hearing.
Yeah.
But it's still Dirty South. It's still gutter. It's still open enough to give his lyrics some shine, but like encapsulating enough to not let you out of the room as a listener. And so I love it. What do you think about the lyrics? What kind of lyrics stood out to you?
What stood out to me was this thing that I don't know if it's necessarily like a Dreamville thing or like a J. Cole influence thing, but when artists reference their relationship with God, it's becoming more like clear and apparent of like what they agree with, what they disagree with. It kind of feels like a lot of artists took the no malice route of kind of like they went on some spiritual journey or have always had that in them, and speaking on it and being very clear about like, oh, I believe, and I don't believe this, like saying God likes ugly, like even just God does like ugly as a title in terms of a lyric is a truthful statement. Like he would never call it ugly, but he likes the things that you don't like in that way or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So there was that. There was Malice said, man, the kings just want to see their princes and can't say, it makes the doves cry. And I was like, what are we, like, why? Why is this the way you're doing this? And Jid has so many lines that I'm like, it's going to take me 10 listens to like catch everything that he was saying, because his vernacular and the way he was spitting, it's just going to be hard to pick up everything. But those were like some of the two, like just his general God bars seemed like he was diving deep into his own personal relationship, things that are changing for him and things that are kind of like going on for him. What did you see out of the lyrics? Yeah,
so something that really stood out to me was a line in You Ugly, the intro track with West Side Gun.
Yeah.
Just talking crazy about champagne and pop bottles and models, and you know what I mean? But anyway, the line is, just took a effing ceiling challenge to show I'm above my peers. Be serious. So that's the line that really stuck out to me, right? Because in 2022, that's when Jid released the album Forever something. Sorry, the Forever Story.
Yeah.
And then you have Surround Sound, which is where the song that inspired the ceiling challenge on TikTok. And then that's when I feel like Jid is known to the world, so to speak. Because after people did that ceiling challenge and it became so popular, then people are looking up Jid, and that changes the landscapes for him. That was 3 years ago. And now he's come back out and he's saying, it took that for somebody to understand that my bars were impactful. And now you have no absolute reason to discount my skills or my work now because of a stupid ceiling challenge. You know what I mean? It took ignorance for his epicness to be recognized.
But it took the things that he would also cherish in his music, because that's Atlanta. Like, if you think about the ceiling challenges,
it's culture.
It's culture. It ain't nothing but Magic City.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I understand the lament of that as well, which I feel like for most artists, his duality of appreciating that and also being like, it took this?
He's not judging it, though. That's the thing. Is like, he's not judging it because, like, he doesn't say anything negative about being of that. Yeah. He's saying that, like, I've grown beyond that. Yeah. And I'm sorry, but, like, nobody's checking for the stuff that I make unless it's connected to the ignorance.
Yeah. But yeah, dope lyrics all throughout. I think he pushed his pen a lot. And like I said, it's going to take multiple listens for me to catch each and every line. I was very impressed by Malice's verse. I do think that's probably like the best verse on the album, just because Malice is taking no names and taking everybody out. Like,
so what's your favorite song?
Wholeheartedly.
Okay, I can hear that.
Like,
it's very, very slow for.
Everything kind of hit. I really like Black. And Ty Dolla $ign can sometimes, like, I think, overtake a track. But this one, it fits so perfectly into what he was saying. And because of how I feel like he set it up kind of like Born Center, right? So Born Center has all of these organs and church music and using, like, all of those things throughout the album. And I think Jid's doing the same thing here. And when you get to Wholeheartedly, it just felt like an earnest plea and an earnest call to the relationship and how things go, and how the thing I think that Drake misses a lot when I'm talking about, like, I'm tired of you whining about these girls that you created that you wanted to be with. This is the genuine relationship thing of what you got going on, wanting somebody to stay around you, like, stay beside me, like, put your whole heart in this, we gonna make it. Like, there's a genuineness to what he's saying, and that's why it, like, stuck out the most to me at that time.
I like on McAfee.
Yeah.
And I like it only because there's this, like, sort of arc of slower songs, slower, like, kind of R&B vibe songs for a while, and then that opens it up after that those records. And so, On McAfee, I think is a great standout track that I like. What's your rating?
I'm going to give it 4.5 ugly. Just the word ugly. 4.5 ugly. Is that a 5? I don't. I failed there. I couldn't think of somebody else. Yeah. Oh, Tyrone Hills. 4.5 Tyrone Hills out of 5.
Okay, I'm gonna. For me, I don't believe this album as impactful as the Clips album was for me. Oh. And so I think I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5 ceiling fans.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
But what would you give it? What do you guys rate it? Did you love the JID album? Did it impact you in any way that you can share with us down in the comments as my brain freezes and I get myself back on track, because that's how it works when you're like that.
And what do you think about all of our topics, whether it be Ari Lennox, Cardi B, Yachty, RJ review? Yeah, where are you at on that?
Just let us know. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next piece. A 1 and a 2 and a peace.